Let me start by saying what you've heard me say many times before, and that is that I can hardly call this execution justice for the Senate family. And it's because it took over 3.5 decades for the sentence to be carried out. I want to tell the family, especially the victims' sons, Mike and Chuck, how genuinely sorry I am for the horrific manner in which their mother lost her life. But I also want to apologize to them for how long it took for this sentence to be carried out. I hope the family has taken some comfort in the events of last night in knowing that there were men and women in this office who did not back away when it would have been easy to do so, and other states may have done the same thing, but instead they continued to fight. Our capital litigators have handled this case for more than 30-plus years. They could have followed the path of other states and gone the path of least resistance, and that would have been easier. But yet I can't think of a better group of lawyers to be able to handle this case. To Commissioner John Hamm and his dedicated team at the Alabama Department of Corrections. Everyone in this room knows they are the first team in the country to carry out nitrogen execution, and what occurred last night was textbook. They deserve a great deal of thanks and credit for being willing to be the one to step up first in the country to do so, and I now suspect that many states will follow. As of last night, nitrogen epoxy as a means of execution is no longer an untested method. It is a proven one. And it's the method that Kenneth Smith ultimately chose, along with now 43 other death row inmates in our state. And thanks to the Fair Justice Act, which our administration passed during our first year in office, we are finally starting to see these cases move faster. It is my hope that one day, sooner rather than later, that the Alabama Attorney General won't have to stand up here and talk about how many decades some families had to wait before justice was served. To my colleagues across the country, many of which were watching last night, Alabama has done it, and now so can you. And we stand ready to assist you in implementing this method in your states. Well, the execution last night was not at all contrary to anything that we filed, but in fact was entirely consistent, not only with what we filed, but also the experts that were retained on behalf of Mr. Smith. As you heard earlier, there's no specific time that we can identify for which the nitrogen began to flow. And so identifying that time, no one can do. But we believe that not only was this constitutionally carried out, but entirely consistent with how it was planned from the beginning. We did not provide justice for this family. Complied with the Constitution in the carrying out of this process. Mr. Smith was given due process through the courts to be able to have his arguments heard. We prevailed, and justice occurred for that family last night. And the one thing that we cannot lose sight of, majority of the questions that we've had here today have dealt with Mr. Smith. We cannot lose sight of the fact that a woman was brutally murdered, taken from her family, and that's the reason why the state of Alabama had to act last night. Let's remember her legacy and her life as much as we remember the person who took her away from us.